2 home games isn't a bad way to finish the season, but local product Peter Barnett will just be another face in the crowd this weekend. A knee injury suffered in Perth has him heading for surgery and reflecting on his first year in the big league.
I felt I've done a reasonable job. I'm happy with the way my inaugural season's been. I must say it's disappointing not to finish it, but
like most, thought has shifted to his future with the club, but it's some of the past that will feature before Sunday's season-ending match against the Melbourne Tigers. 2 teams made up of past Newcastle champions will suit up in the curtain raiser. It's the same day Michael Barwick hopes to star at the National Athletics Championships. The 800-metre runner has lowered his personal best time twice this season to be within a second of the Olympic B qualifying time and 4th fastest in the country.
Still probably think I'm one really good season away from being right there, but I'll chase them as hard as I can this weekend.
And there are no Australian players left standing at the International Tennis Federation's satellite tournament at Cessnock. Brad Watson was the last of the domestic players as the 4th quarter-final match stretched into a deciding 3rd set. While born in Australia, Dejan Petrovic represents Serbia-Montenegro, and his big serve had Watson in all sorts of trouble deep in their match. It helped him round it out, winning 6-7, 6-3, 6-4, and see him progress to tomorrow's semi-finals.
It takes something special to bring this many people out at 7 o'clock in the morning. Today it was a procession line of 220 fishing vessels making their way to sea at Port Stephens. The boats have come from all over the country to contest the 42nd New South Wales Game Fishing Competition, one of the biggest and oldest tournaments in the Southern Hemisphere. The swell, while tame compared to the past few days, proved to be quite a hurdle for some of the boats trying to make their way out of the bay.
We have some late arrivals and we've had a number of boats that had problems getting up here. There's quite some interesting stories, I believe. Quite a few of them were airborne.
More than 1,000 anglers, along with relatives and friends, have flocked to the area, providing welcome revenue for the region's tourism operators.
We did an economic survey about 3 years ago in the area, and the outcome was that we expend over $2.6 million in the area over the tournament time.
Crews will be looking to snag more than this fisherman did today if they're wanting a share in the several $100,000 prize purse. Jessica Phyllis, NBN News.
There was a challenge with a difference for the region's Scouts today, with the inaugural milk carton boat race at Glenrock Lagoon. Scouts have spent the past 3 months designing and constructing vessels using milk cartons, plastic bottles and crates. Today's 300-metre-long course tested the 13 craft, with some looking more like submarines than sailboats. The project was designed to test the Scouts' problem-solving and teamwork skills.
Emergency crews were called to the accident just before 10 this morning, arriving to find the driver of this Toyota Camry sedan was already dead. Police say the woman was visiting family in Gloucester and on her way back to Campbelltown in Sydney's southwest.
As she was rounding through a set of S-bends, she's gone off the left-hand side of the roadway into the gravel, which has then made her lose control and go sideways across the road where a northbound vehicle has T-boned her.
The driver of the Ford Laser sedan, a 60-year-old woman, received minor injuries and was this afternoon in a stable condition in Gloucester Hospital. Crash investigators say it's still unclear what caused the southbound Camry to leave the stretch of road, known to locals as Cut Hill.
This section of road is actually, compared to the rest of the Buckets Way, is a very good stretch of road. I'm not sure at this stage whether fatigue or speed may have been a factor in this accident.
And police have released the name of the driver killed in a car accident at Windale early Saturday morning. He was 18-year-old Jason Kung from Belmont. Another 18-year-old male who was in the car at the time remains in a serious but stable condition, recovering from head injuries in hospital. Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
The Tigers lineup just wouldn't be the same without Andrew Gaze, but last night may have been his last in Newcastle in a Melbourne singlet. While the lights went out before the match, once things got started, both teams shone in attack. Enjoying his best season to date, there was no question who the Tigers targeted, with Geordie Cullen coming under plenty of pressure. It brought out the best once again, finishing with a game-high 28 points. Just 1 point separated them at the main break, but experience was the key. Melbourne reeks of it, and it showed in the end. The Pirates ending their maiden season bottom of the ladder with 2 wins from 33 matches. Newcastle United boasted a better record, but no one would be pleased about their NSL season either. Wrecked by injury, suspension and representative duty, United's season ended ugly in every sense. While Olyroos Ryan Griffiths can prepare for Athens, his teammates don't know what to expect in Australian soccer's National League restructure. Either way, it'll be a long time between drinks for all to exact revenge for last night's 3-0 loss. After 2 years cemented in the playoffs, Newcastle finished this year third last. NSL clubs were to be pouring through the criteria in order to tender for a position in the revamped league, but instead they can only tell their players to remain patient.
I don't think any organisations are out there in the marketplace signing players as a matter of urgency.
That's the problem at the moment. No one's guaranteed anything.
All contracts for both players and coaching staff expire after June 30, but the New Look League isn't expected to kick off until late January 2005, and that's too long for many.
Can't just say to them, oh, look, have a sit, have a wait, and we'll let you know in 6 months. That can't happen.
Crook has already been offered positions back in England and has given himself around 6 weeks before real decisions have to be made. While supremely confident United will be in the new league, United understands some players will look overseas and domestically, and the club has offered to review each player's position case by case.
In essence, they're full-time until the 30th of June. They won't be going anywhere without the approval of Newcastle United.
Ryan Griffiths expects to be heading to Greece later this month with the Olyroos squad to play the Greek under-23s in Athens.
When you represent Australia, you're not going to hold back, and you're always going to display, what you've got. So every chance that I'm going to have, I'm going to grab it.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Noelle Smith chose to have her last 2 babies at home. 3-month-old Angus is the latest arrival.
My births were really beautiful experiences, fantastic support from professional midwives. Wouldn't do it any other way.
Soon, more mothers could have the choice of home births if a plan for publicly funded midwives gets the go-ahead. It would only be available to healthy women without complications.
We know that it's safe, we know we're providing women with choice, and we know we're providing them with international best practice care, which only a handful of women have been able to access in Australia so far.
Hunter Health says the option has been available for women living in other Australian states and developed countries such as New Zealand and the Netherlands for years.
I just think that this is a wonderful opportunity to demonstrate the truly great skilled midwifery force that we do have, and I just hope it comes sooner rather than later.
The Maternity Coalition says it would not only be cost effective, it would also provide another option for women given the national shortage of obstetric services. Lyndall Derrick, NBN News.
In the early hours of the 8th of March 1954, 20 vehicles, including amphibious tanks, troop carriers and ducks, left Newcastle Harbour on an exercise to Morna Point near Port Stephens. While conditions were calm when they left, squalls whipped up a heavy sea and 8 of the 20 vehicles sank. 3 soldiers died. Sergeant Don McCaddy's tank was among the first to go down.
Evacuated the tank, did what we could, steel box, got the crew all together, and then I forget now whether she went down by the bow or by the stern.
A memorial service is planned for the Stockton cenotaph at 10:30 this Saturday, when that fateful morning will be remembered.
It was great to meet these chaps and have a talk to them and hear at this stage about how they went down, what happened to them.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
The $12 million development next to the Pacific Highway will include 31 three-bedroom and 10 two-bedroom terrace-type houses. A development application for the joint venture between developer Hilton Grugeon and builder Simon Livingstone has been lodged with the council, and it will be put on public exhibition next week.
High-rise is permitted, but we believe it would be out of keeping with this site. This is a little secluded valley, and although it's beside a main highway, once you get in there it's very private.
It's permissible under the current zone but not permissible under the draft LEP, so that's one of the considerations that council will have to take when they're doing their assessment.
Trees at the park would be retained, and Mr Grugeon says he hopes the development will breathe new life into the site, which currently operates at only around 30% of its capacity.
I think it's a fabulous idea. The fact that I think it'll bring more people to the area and it'll actually add a bit more class to the area as well.
Plans are also underway to relocate the permanent residents currently at the park.
I haven't sort of worried. I know the owners pretty well, they're really nice people and I trust them for what they say.
The developers say an alternative would be to revamp the existing caravan park, but it's expected it could take up to 15 years to claw back the costs.
Demand for land in Singleton has reached an all-time high, blocks of land now selling like hotcakes. Mayor Fred Harvison attributes the huge amount of interest to city people seeking a slower-paced lifestyle and also the boom in the coal mining industry.
A lot of people now moving over for lifestyle from the Central Coast Newcastle area. Land's still at a good price compared to Sydney areas. There's the job opportunities up here, there's a lifestyle.
Land in Singleton is so sought after that people camped here outside council on Sunday night for the latest land release.
We had people lining up here from Sunday morning at 4 o'clock and the land didn't go on release until opening of business hours on the Monday morning.
30 of the 41 blocks of land in this new subdivision, known as the Pinnacle, were snapped up within 2 hours at an average price of $118,000. Singleton Council has also announced it will develop 157 hectares in the Bridgham Ridge area into a few hundred lots. Meanwhile, in Maitland, Mayor Peter Blackmore is floating the idea of a performing arts space on the banks of the Hunter River.
I'd like to see that we turn it into a natural amphitheatre, that we can have concerts on the Hunter.
He has a vision for either a mobile stage next to the river or a floating pontoon for outdoor cinema and concerts. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
If this is someone's attempt at trying to improve their view, council is certainly not impressed.
It's a criminal act because the trees belong to all of us. They don't belong to individual property owners.
As we reported yesterday, the 5,000 square metre waterfront reserve at Nelson Bay will soon be stripped bare following the poisoning of the site. Port Stephens Council is now looking at how it can avoid a repeat of the poisoning. It's considering several options being used by councils across the state, including the Central Coast, where in one instance a permanent sign has been erected in an attempt to stop further attacks. It will also consider placing large barricades in front of trees to deny the view that was possibly being sought.
I don't know whether we would want to go that far. If we do, I would still like to suggest it only be done until the area is suitable again for rehabilitation.
The matter will be discussed at a council meeting on Tuesday night. Colleen West, NBN News.
Making the switch from rugby league to boxing is becoming somewhat of a popular trend, and one former Nelson Bay forward, Mick Auld, plans to give his best shot.
I was just looking for a change, mate. You know, I'm a bit over the football scene, so I thought I'd give this a go.
The former first grader turned heavyweight is among 7 debutants to make an appearance at the Mayfield Ex-Servicemen's Club this Saturday night. Their opponents hail from the far north and central coasts and Sydney, many of which have a string of fights already to their name.
Some of the Newcastle fighters are taking on one or two guys who've had one or two boxing matches, so they've got the job ahead of them.
16-year-old welterweight Troy Lodge is another to make the step, as is Wallsend's Carl Reid-Seamer in the light heavyweight division.
Some will go on professional, some will just come in, have a good time, get a trophy and have their friends come along and have a generally good time at it.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News. In what was the calm before the storm, solid 1 to 2 metre waves was all Luke Munro needed to tame the world's best. Mick Fanning couldn't quite catch the wild card in the sudden death heat as Munro cruised through to set up a third-round showdown with reigning world champion Andy Irons. Kelly Slater went to all sorts of lengths to give himself every chance, and it seemed to work. Not winning here since 1998, the 31-year-old former world champion looked right at home, easily accounting for American wildcard Dane Reynolds, well on his way to breaking his Snapper Rocks drought.
That's the first heat I can remember in a while out here where I really felt like, I just felt like the waves were going to come to me. In the last couple of years, I feel like I've really fought through heats.
The Gold Coast's Joel Parkinson was among the second-round winners, but he was certainly made to work for it.
I was pretty much back on the ropes there for a while, but I was so lucky. I seen that wave coming. I was like, please have some length on it, and it didn't have much, but it had enough, so.
And Byron Bay's Denny Wills can breathe a little easier tonight, also through to the third round, which will take place tomorrow, conditions permitting. Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
This is all that remained of a car burnt and crushed beyond recognition underneath the front wheels of a semi-trailer. Such was the impact of the crash, police unsure of the number killed.
At this stage, it's difficult to say. There has been a small sedan incinerated under the truck with forensic services on the way, and that will take some time to confirm, we think, through a number of inquiries. Yeah.
According to police, it is one of the most serious accidents on the Pacific Highway in recent years. 4 cars, 1 caravan and a semi-trailer. Police say a collision between this Hilux ute and a semi-trailer started the deadly chain of events on a straight piece of road 1 kilometre south of Bulahdelah. It's believed the Hilux, driven by a local which was heading south, had stopped to turn right into Keels Road. The semi-trailer, also in the southbound lane, collided with the rear of the Hilux, forcing it into the path of northbound traffic. The Hilux hitting a 4-wheel drive towing a caravan and a second sedan. But it appears that the fatal collision occurred when the semi-trailer also veered into northbound traffic and ploughed into another sedan head-on. The car was carried off the road underneath the truck about 100 metres, where it then burst into flames. 2 rescue helicopters airlifted several occupants of the 3 cars and the truck driver to John Hunter Hospital.
6 people have been transported to hospital, 5 males and a female, through both road and air.
The Pacific Highway was closed for several hours. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Faces old and new gathered to help launch the Newcastle Knights' 17th crusade, with many of the original 1988 side special guests last night.
A couple of the old boys are, a little bit grey and a little bit podgier.
Building tradition is very much becoming the trend at Newcastle, and it's a point not lost on the current stars.
Coming up, these blokes were my heroes when I was watching them play, so I'd say all the players now will get a kick out of seeing the old players.
Presenting players with their jumpers, David Boyd and Ben Kennedy showed some things never change, but the latter is hoping for a rub of the green. The luckless lock-in reeled out for the season opener, while Matt Parsons isn't much better.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have Bouquet and Matty Parsons in there, but if they're not, we've got the depth there for the quality players to come in.
With Mark Hughes still recovering from off-season surgery, Russell Richardson won the vacant centre spot, while fellow new recruit David Siege will make his NRL debut off the bench. In contrast, the skipper contemplates that this could be his last season in the red and blue, given his contract expires this year.
It's a big decision, but first and foremost, get on the field. But I made a decision mid-year, but trying to put it out of my head. But it's always going to be there, I suppose.
Newcastle play Penrith on Friday night.
The Vice-Chancellor had a two hours of consultation in a forum in which he basically presented his recommendation and didn't give any chance for any sort of change.
The touring party of around 40 Harleys rolled into the Westpac Rescue Helicopter Base at Broadmeadow late this morning. It was emotional times for the families and friends of riders who hadn't seen their loved ones in 15 days. Particularly so for Dave Gollidge, who founded the Harleys for Helicopters charity ride in 2001.
When I kicked this off 3 years ago, it was just something that a few of us were going to do a ride around New South Wales. It's now grown where we have 25, 30 people on board. We have 4 support vehicles. We have fairly substantial corporate sponsors.
These charitable souls have travelled thousands of kilometres around country in coastal New South Wales, visiting schools and hospitals along the way and raising around $110,000 for rescue helicopters.
It is hard. It's hard work. It's 15 days on the road. It's 4,000 kilometres. You don't sleep much. You ride lots.
Jessica Phyllis, NBN News. The sun was hardly shining for the final day of the Newcastle Regional Show, yet you couldn't wipe the smile off the face of show president Robert Saddington.
It's been our best Thursday and Friday for quite a few years. The first session Saturday morning was good, but then the heavens opened up and Saturday afternoon and night was we were down on our numbers there, but overall we'll come out on top.
At 1 o'clock, with only 4 hours to go, there were still people lining up at the gates. And for those that weren't afraid to get a wet behind, most rides were still operating. No doubt the absence of a rival super show again helped the 2004 regional show along to what should be a profit. But officials believe it was the improved amusements and entertainment items that brought in the crowds.
I think the Ride All Day Pass is a very good promotion, and last night there was the Demolition Derby.
It's a Newcastle landmark and now temporarily a pub with no beer after a magistrate ordered the Great Northern closed for 72 hours. Weekend unrest in the vicinity of the hotel and the presence of a 300-strong crowd, including people wanting to enter the pub, forced police to request the lockdown.
And it got to the stage whereby there was so many different assaults taking place and a large number of people swelling on the street that to prevent any further breaches of the peace, police took this action.
Hotel management backed officers and shut the doors, expecting the closure to last 24 hours. The decision has been met with disbelief.
Completely shattered and shocked by the extreme measures that took place at our venue.
The hotel security contractor Glenn Jennings can't understand the decision.
My understanding of 72-hour closures are usually tied to deaths on premises or continuous licensing breaches, drug-related. They're very rarely given out.
An application will be made tomorrow in the Supreme Court to overturn the magistrate's decision so the Great Northern can resume trading as soon as possible. Gary Blair, NBN News.
surgery,
Since November last year, a cloud has hung over the maternity ward at Belmont Hospital. It was feared it would close due to a shortage of specialists. But today, Hunter Health delivered a welcome plan to keep birthing services at Belmont.
It will ensure that there are services maintained at Belmont, but it'll be a safe service for appropriate women to deliver out at Belmont.
It will be business as usual at the maternity ward until June 2005. That's when highly trained midwives will take over and obstetricians, anaesthetists and paediatricians will be gradually phased out. The midwifery birthing service will only be available to women who are assessed as having a low-risk birth.
There'll be a careful screening process to make sure that ladies who want to deliver at this service will be appropriate to deliver at this service in terms of the risk of outcomes for them and their baby.
Women and their babies will be able to go home after 24 hours and midwives will provide postnatal care at home. The New South Wales Maternity Coalition has welcomed the move, saying it can't happen soon enough. It hopes the model will be rolled out across the region. Lyndall Derrig, NBN News. Catherine Jones is one of 6 female artists exploring the theme of women in an exhibition that will open to the public tomorrow. These pint-sized pieces of clothing and armour created from used food tins are expected to satisfy the hunger of art enthusiasts with a taste for something a little different. The final touches were put to Newcastle Art Space this afternoon, along with several artworks including sequin and pin creations, which have each taken around 40 hours to create. Meanwhile, an exhibition of surfing culture has taken residence at the Newcastle Regional Gallery. Some of the works may look vaguely familiar to people from the surfing and fashion worlds, with artist for Mambo clothing company Reg Mombasa among those displaying work. And a man who has done design work for Silverchair, Ben Brown, is also helping to attract a larger than normal number of young spectators. Colleen West, NBN News. For a period of 6 months last year, an additional 8 officers in Newcastle CBD and Hamilton patrolled the streets on foot on Friday and Saturday nights. According to the Derby Street business owners, the results were outstanding, quashing antisocial behaviour.
The police presence was enough to keep people under control and, be happy. And
police are reviewing the trial to determine whether it will be implemented indefinitely, but that could mean big bucks.
If it can't be done through supplementary policing, well, it needs to be done by some other means. And that means if it's done by permanent policing, well, then that's what has to happen.
While Mr Heaton says he hasn't noticed a rise in the level of bad behaviour since the trial ended, he fears things could get out of control.
I can see probably a similar occurrence that we had before with antisocial behaviour.
Meanwhile, management at the Great Northern Hotel, which was forced to shut for 3 days after police closed the doors to stop unruly behaviour, says it will enforce a limit on the number of people passing through its doors.
Work is being carried out at Fever Pitch on stage 1 of the upgrade to have Energy Australia Stadium ready for the night's first home game in 6 weeks. And the building activity is set to continue after the Premier today promised another $8 million so the venue can seize opportunities.
This is a driver of jobs. It's good for the economy. It enables the region to bid for entertainment as well as sporting activities and bring tourism.
The extra money aims to make the stadium a world-class regional sporting facility with the grandstand, corporate boxes and lighting to be improved. It comes in the wake of a recent Auditor-General's report that concluded the stadium needs to improve its income or risk significant financial losses.
It didn't figure at all. Now our motivation is to see that from the start it's a good project, that we don't live with unnecessary compromise.
The Premier's call for federal money continued, with public statements made by Senator John Tierney and Paterson MP Bob Baldwin being used to demand the Prime Minister pay up.
So he allowed his representatives in the Hunter to say, oh, let the state contribute first, then we'll look at it, but no response.
Jill Buseman was one of the first in Australia to take part in the trial. Instead of taking tamoxifen for 5 years, she took it for only 2, then switched to exenestane for the remaining 3 years. Results of the improved treatment were released today.
Rather earlier than we anticipated and better than we expected, it's a very positive trial. There's no question that there's extra benefit.
Existing treatment for breast cancer involves continuous use of tamoxifen, but by switching drugs midway through treatment, women are 1/3 less likely to have a relapse and are more likely to be completely free of the disease. However, it's only applicable to a specific group of women.
It's only in postmenopausal women who have had early breast cancer and a breast cancer that was hormone sensitive.
Jill was first diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 62. She was forced to undergo a mastectomy, but is now free of the disease.
Never at any stage have I ever felt that I had a life-threatening illness, which I think helps. But I certainly am absolutely fine now.
More than 4,700 women took part in the trial conducted by the Australian New Zealand Breast Cancer Trials Group.
The way we treat breast cancer today is because of the women who were on trials yesterday. And the way we do research today will benefit the women who get breast cancer tomorrow.
Lyndall Derrig, NBN News. What was once a popular school filled with happy children is now silent and abandoned. Doors and windows are boarded up with plywood and the playground is empty. Adamstown Infant School was damaged in the Newcastle earthquake in 1989. The Department of Education decided not to repair it and combined the infants with the primary school around the corner. But that was 14 years ago.
Residents didn't want to comment on camera today, but say they're fed up with the lack of action. They say the building is regularly broken into, vandalised, and sometimes syringes are left behind. The Department of Land says it's taken longer than expected to rezone the site to residential. The General Manager says he can understand the frustrations of residents.
Yes, I can appreciate that, and we apologise, but we had to go through the rationalisation of the legal issues and to correct the zoning before we could move forward.
But moves are finally underway to sell the site. All that's needed is a real estate agent.
So as soon as that is completed and a successful agent has been selected, we would expect sale to be completed by the end of the financial year.
Lyndall Derrig, NBN News.
Welcome to season 2004, and even though it has been a tough beginnings to the year for the NRL, I think we're all looking forward to getting the season underway. It all starts tonight at 8:30 right here on NBN. Just for the record, I've selected my top 8 for the year, and it looks like this. Roosters, Panthers, Warriors and the Knights to make up the top 4, followed by the Bulldogs, Raiders, Storm and Brisbane. Without a doubt, for my mind, the Roosters are the team to beat. They've had a tremendous off-season. I watched them train this week, and they are the benchmark for fitness in the NRL. And while I was there, I was also impressed by a 21-year-old Anthony Tupou. Now, he's a young prop originally from Newcastle. He came to the Roosters last year, and at that time he weighed 122 kilos. He's now down to 102 and tipped by many in the club to be their next superstar. The Tigers are a team that I've earmarked for big improvement this year. Tim Sheens is in his second year of coaching at the club and is starting to instill his style and discipline in the team. He's also bought very well, including the likes of Scott Prince and Scott Sattler. They started the season with a victory in the World Sevens. They also have an outstanding young player by the name of Benji Marshall. He received a lot of hype and press last year for his efforts, but I think he's one of the hottest prospects in the game we've seen for years. Watch out for him. As I said before, it all starts tonight at Panthers Stadium. Defending premiers Penrith take on the Knights. There'll be a capacity crowd at the season opener. I think the Knights can get the money for their first game. Let's have a look at Saturday's matches. Tigers, Bulldogs and the Cowboys to win their games. Sunday's matches, Raiders, Warriors and the Roosters to get their season underway with a victory also. Good luck for your tips. I'll catch you next week. Round 2 of the NRL. Last week in the opening round we saw some good performances, particularly from the Knights, the Broncos and the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs certainly needed some good news and a win delivered that, but it also at the same time marked the debut of 18-year-old centre Sonny Bill Williams. Now he's had large expectations placed on him from a young age and he delivered in one of the most impressive and dominant debuts I've seen in a long, long time. And it's quite unusual as we see the emergence of young players like Sonny Bill and the Broncos' 17-year-old Carmichael Hunt. We also had 3 retirements from the first round. Terry Hill and Robbie Ross both retired through injury, and Parramatta's Jamie Lyons, who elected to have an indefinite break from the game, and let's hope it's not a long one, has also retired. All 3 of these players have represented Australia and will be sorely missed from the game. Now, Francis Melly is renowned as one of the biggest hitters in the NRL, but last week his Warriors teammate and captain Monty Beethan was keen to get in on the act. Now, unfortunately for him, all he managed for his efforts was a 5-week suspension, and that's if he takes the early plea. But more bad luck, he broke his arm in the tackle, which will sideline him for 2 months. And after the game, he was quoted as saying that Petro Civoniceva has a hard head. I'll tell you what, that's a good tip. On my tips for round two, tonight's game, the Raiders play the Panthers at Canberra Stadium. Penrith have not won a match in the first two rounds since season 2000, but I think they're going to win tonight and the defending premiers will get up. Saturday I'm going for the Warriors, Bulldogs and the Roosters, and Sunday I expect the Knights to keep up their good form with a win over the Storm, also the Broncos and the Tigers to get up as well. Good luck with your tips. I'll catch you all next week.
This was no ordinary welcome, but when it comes to the RAF, you can always expect big things. 160 RAF personnel representing the various units that form the new Surveillance and Response Group participated in this morning's parade. The newly formed group will comprise 2,100 people, some from the Edinburgh base north of Adelaide.
It's a group that we have formed from Maritime Patrol Group and Surveillance and Control Group. Maritime Patrol Group is based in Edinburgh, flying AP3C Orions, and Surveillance and Control Group was based here at Williamtown.
Their aim is to enhance the Defence Force's capability to identify and respond to potential air and maritime threats. They will command over the P3 Orion fleet and the 4 airborne early warning and control aircraft, which will be operational by early 2007.
We'll have everybody well and truly trained and ready to operate their airplanes.
And in other defence news, Williamtown Base has just secured a $300 million project to upgrade Australia's FA-18 Hornet fighter aircraft. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
The first thing you notice about Fastnet Rock is his size. Owned by the Coolmore stud, the impressively built galloper will start from Barrier 9 in the $3 million event, something that should suit the Danehill colt, which was listed at fixed odds of around $26 late today.
You say if he would have won last Saturday, he probably would have been half the odds he is tomorrow, and I think he has got a real chance in the race all the same, especially if there's plenty of speed.
Looking a certain winner at the weekend, Fastnet Rock got caught on the line after straying once he'd hit the lead, but he'll travel the 1,200 metre journey tomorrow with blinkers on to keep him in line. It was foot trouble and a thrown shoe that cost Perry any chance of a slipper win 2 years ago, with his now famed sprinter Schwazier, who still ran a gallant third.
Look, I'm sure he would have won Schwazier had he probably about a week and a half out. He had a lot of foot trouble and it really cost him. You know, I think if he would have went in trouble free, he would have won the race for sure.
A Newcastle trainer hasn't won the famous juvenile feature since the late Max Lees did with Luskin Star in 1977. Now Perry would love to see if the slipper fits. To the mechanical form of horsepower and a simple act of generosity has turned the Newcastle Showground into one of the country's best speedway circuits. Around 200 tonne of crushed rock and soil was donated and promptly dumped on the track today, and it got the thumbs up from brothers Jay and Dane Stevens ahead of the speedway meeting tomorrow night.
The hosts enjoyed a near textbook start to the match, with Mustangs fullback Shannon Murphy opening the scoring in style. But the Mustangs' lead was short-lived as Daniel Evans provided the magic, leaving Ben Quinlan to finish off. Unlike the first, it wasn't the best of second-half starts for Murwillumbah. Down one man for 10 minutes, the Seagulls then made them pay. Tweed centre Scott McDougall then did his bit, giving the visitors a healthy lead. Playing catch-up, the Mustangs hit back in Jared Flick, this one of 2 tries for the big running second rower. Down by 6, Murwillumbah's Andrew Pollard narrowed the gap, leaving Matt Harley to equalise, the score 28-all at full time. Adam McIlwright, NBN News.
Coming off a bye, Charlestown was firm favourite to pick up another 2 competition points against Westport. The Port Macquarie-based side weren't expected to post much resistance for a team propping up the ladder, but they belied their position in the competition to beat the home side on all 3 rinks and win the round 9 match 78 shots to 50. The loss didn't hurt Charlestown's position on the ladder, still in a share of the lead with St John's Park. But the big mover was Maitland City. 2 wins saw them jump from 10th to 6th and within sight of a semi-final berth. Souths continue its good form in the Premier Hockey League with another convincing win, this time against a gallant Maitland. Up 1-0 early, Souths had plenty of opportunities to stretch the lead before half-time, before John Finance bagged one of his 2 goals for the game with a deadly strike from a short corner. Mitchell Waring also grabbed the double in the 4-1 win. West enjoyed a narrow win over Gosford, while Tigers and Norths also got the points in the other games.
Just 3 hours after his brush with Mother Nature, Scott Dunn spoke from hospital of his frightening morning.
I went out to wind the window up and didn't sort of hear the thunder, just heard like crackling, like the cellophane papers noise, and then I woke up next to the car.
Witnesses say the lightning bolt appeared to have struck Mr Dunn's car or near enough to it around 10:30 this morning on an Aberglasslyn building site.
I'm seeing a really big lightning strike. I wasn't sure whether it actually hit the ground or the car. And then as I come rushing out of the house, he's laying on the ground shaking.
Huge clap of thunder come. And we were just out the back and come around like to see if anything happened, and Scott was on the ground.
Doctors say the accident could have been much worse, with Mr Dunn only suffering shock, a minor burn to his hand and a sore shoulder.
Going in lotto tonight, I think.
Despite the savage nature of the storm, the worst of it seemed to be isolated to this street, with the only other call for help just 2 houses down. The SES was called to this home to cut down a tree declared unsafe after lightning struck it too.
I didn't even know there was any lightning. I just seen the rain, and next time I heard a big bang and went outside because it might have been the aerial, but it was the big tree over the back.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News. Two of the region's top sporting heroes led 800 Year 10 students into their personal lives today. Justin Norris and Jackie Munro fielded questions about everything from the pressures of education to what type of shampoo they use. Norris leaving this one up to his wife.
I think I've known Justin for about 3 years and he's never washed his hair yet, so...
The talk was designed to inspire the kids as they approach their senior schooling years, offering advice to be used both in and outside of sporting circles.
Along the way, when you make decisions in life, you don't ever know how they're going to turn out. All you can do is weigh up all the factors at the time.
Both spoke of golden and heartbreaking moments, none more so for Jackie when she made the decision not to push for Olympic selection this year, opting instead to recover from an ongoing hip injury. She says it's all part of the long road to success. Adam McIlrick, NBN News.